Hello and welcome back to another Scent Notes video. I'm Sean Mayer once again, and I'm talking about a new release, just like I do every time. So no surprises there. This time I am looking forward to something that's a little more springtime because we're still pretty freaking cold here, but it's, just around the corner. Spring's coming, and I've got a new release for Maher Olfactive that is made for the springtime, and I think it's actually really something you could wear all year round, that is. But that would be Red Skies. It is a scent that I created because I always just, when I was a kid, I heard that expression, red skies at morning, sailors take warning, red skies at night, sailors delight. And I just thought that was something like super mystical and like fantastical about it. Like, sailing in general as a kid, you just think of these guys like in a boat going all over the world, just like, they just don't have a home. They don't like, they're always, they just don't have land to anchor them. It's just like such a weird, surreal thing to think about, like just a step short of being an astronaut, but like an astronaut who like is in the space, lives on the space station. So it's like, but anyways, I'm gonna get a little off track. The idea that I thought that sailing was just like this super crazy thing I could never get my mind around, and they had all these things like, the North Star was meant for like sailors to find their way. So you look up at night and you think that's how people found their way all around the world, like using these stars that I'm looking at right now. And also the idea of red skies being this thing that sailors could divine how the weather was going to go or what their luck was going to be, I just thought was super interesting. It felt, like I said, very mystical. And that expression always kind of stuck with me even today. If I see like, red sky in the morning, I'm like, oh man, stay off the boat today, I guess, because it's not a good day to do it. So anyways, when I created Red Skies, I wanted to have like that dichotomy, that the two sides, the red skies at night, so like the top notes, the sailor's delight, something bright and fun and like feels like, a sea cruise or something. And then red skies in morning, sailors take warning underneath, something dark and maybe a little foreboding, but something that's a little more mossy and feels like, a little more dark to it. So I went with that idea, and I made a chypre. Start off with the traditional chypre structure. It's going to have, the oakmoss, which I used a atronal-free oakmoss, supplemented by a few different things to kind of give it, and also supplemented by real oakmoss that is atronal. Does have the atronal because you can use a certain percentage of it. So I combined those two along with a few other things to get that traditional oak moss feeling. I used labdanum. I also used a Spanish labdanum essential oil. It's something I used in Sagan Dahlia and something that I think is really great. It's like labdanum, but kind of like almost got a fruity essence to it. So I think it was going to go really well with, I'll get to that in a minute. And then also, so like on top of those two, I'm going to have like the florals, which I'll get to in a minute. But at the top note, I have a bergamot, which is, a kind of almost like an Earl Grey tea citrus. In fact, you'll find bergamot Earl Grey tea. So it's something bright, but also a little spicy. And I think, that's the reason why it's such a important part of chypre structure, because I think that it is kind of something that has a top note, but it really brings everything together really well. However, on top of the fragrance in that structure, I included a few other things. First was kaffir lime leaf essential oil. So kaffir lime leaf, you probably are familiar with it if you enjoy pho or Vietnamese food or something like that. But it is, it's green, it's rich, but it also is zesty. It's got, a lime essence to it. So I did take that, and it is, and I added a little bit of lime, some lime components to it, lime oxide, which is kind of like a little bit more of what you think when you smell lime. Like lime essential oil can be a little bit tinny, but I think lime oxide is more rich and juicy. So I had just a touch of that to enhance that, so it could get even more zesty on top, because what I wanted to do was create that with an ocean air accord. However, a lot of aquatics you're going to get, they're like dihydromercenol, some of those really like kind of thick and like really just feel like, I don't know what, but it just feels like, it's almost like, it's just really unsubtle. It's over the top. So what I did with this, I did, a few things, some traditional and some not, for an ocean air accord, but something that I wanted to smell a little more marine-like, something that smelled like fresh and on the open seas type of thing, versus like, opening a bottle of, a cleaner or something. It's supposed to be, you know, or your laundry detergent or something like that. So the kaffir lime leaf I think played really well with that. I used two materials, aquamate, affairmate, that are very very airy, and for lack of a better word, you know, they're airy, they're ocean air, so I think it fit really well. They are very, but they kind of are not hitting you in the face ozonic, just like really atmospheric. Again, with that, I also added a little bit of, I lost my train of thought, and I put these notes in here for a reason. So I also have a little bit of Precyclamone B. I always forget that name. Precyclamone B is like, it's also kind of that airy aspect, but it's also got some grapefruit tinges to it, just like slightly, like a little bit of rind, not much, but enough to go with that zest of the kaffir lime leaf, but also really augment again that the aquamate, affairmate, those ozonic notes. Again, with that, I did just like the slightest little touch of what is called watermelon ketone or cologne. It is, you know, quintessential 90s thing. And it was overused in a lot of fragrances like the L'Eau d'Issey. But what I did, I just used like a tiny little touch of it because I just want to get that kind of, that vibe, but I didn't want to actually smell it. And then to augment all of that, I used fresh ginger essential oil because it's got like a real bite to it, like a crisp bite. And I think that works really well with that, and also it'll kind of get down to the middle notes whenever we talk about that in a minute. Just think about that kind of, I don't even want to say a spice because it's not spice. It's a cool spice. It's fresh. I feel like it's very cool and cold ginger. This, at least this essential oil that I used is. And then again with that, and I also know green cognac essential oil. That's the other one I wanted to say. That one, it's kind of like a bridge again. It's not really part of the ocean air accord. I used it to kind of bridge the top notes to the middle notes. So in the middle notes, I had a jasmine, which I used a jasmine sambac from Egypt, that jasmine absolute. And I mean, I think that's kind of, it just goes with, in traditional chypre structure, you're gonna have some florals, and I think a jasmine is a very, you know, it feels like a little bit tropical. It feels like something that you might smell on the seashore, and I think it goes really well with those ginger notes and those kind of those ozonic notes. I also use another tropical flower, ylang. That one, again, it kind of is a little more throaty. I think it's kind of like, feels like the wicked cousin of the jasmine in a way that, I mean, they don't necessarily smell the same, but they're both very throaty. Jasmine can get really fruity, and ylang has some fruitiness, but I think it gets that throatiness that you can kind of not, it might be, you fall a little short on the jasmine, but you're gonna get it fully with ylang. However, the accord I did, I backed off those like the throaty animalic notes on the ylang. I kept it more with that dark richness, and I didn't make it too over the top. In addition to that, I had an orange blossom, which orange blossom has a richness to it, and I made an accord of this because I wanted it to be a supporting note, not a feature note, so I wanted to use it strategically. So I added the fruitiness of the orange blossom. Specifically, you're going to get almost like a grapey note to it. It's called methyl anthranilate. You're going to get that in, it's going to be heavily in the orange blossom accord, and I think it went really well with everything what I'm trying to do as I bring it down, go down the ladder. It's going to get down to, and that's going to combine with a davana, which is something I've used before, that essential oil. And it's again it's a little more, it's got some spiciness that I think goes well with that ginger. And but it also kind of like really goes well with that orange blossom and the cologne and some of those fruity notes in the ozone accord to really kind of add to that fresh tropical thing. So like as the fragrance burns down, you're gonna get those top notes into the middle notes. And then as the top notes in the ocean air burns off, and this is kind of a slow burn, I think it's got a really great longevity to it, and it's something that, but it's never too in your face screaming, and it has a really big progression to it. I think by the time that you're done with it, you're not gonna, you know, it's gonna be a totally different fragrance than when you put it on. I think that's kind of plays to the concept that I'm doing here. So as it goes down, you're gonna have this, like the elemi resin. It's like an incensey note, but it's like a little more fruity. You're gonna get like kind of almost like I get a citrus note to it. It's kind of terpenic, and I think it goes well that with those Precyclamone B, aquamate, affairmate. You get elemi, even though it doesn't feel like the same, there are gonna be like some little aspects to it that can really, you know, they might link together. And I think that really helps it go down, and then also the incensey note really leads down to the bottom note, so I'll get here in a little bit as well. And again, I also have a vetiver in there. It's a Haitian vetiver, which I think is, first of all, it's a tropical, terroir, but it's also like something that has a grapefruity top note. Not like grapefruity, but there are like kind of grapefruit rind, almost like nuances to the vetiver. So I think it goes well as like kind of like a straddling that base and middle note, so that way it kind of helps ease the transition all the way down. And then as you go down there, you're gonna get into, like I said, I had that traditional structure going on there. I use like kind of like obviously the oakmoss I talked about, labdanum I talked about, but there's also a leather, and leather does play off labdanum. I mean, and the oakmoss. All these are kind of this is kind of an effect that kind of comes from it. But I also use some traditional notes. I use a isobutylquinoline, which is just a very traditional note for leather that was used in the kind of around the time with the advent of the chypre, Coty chypre, which. If you're ever in St. Louis and you visit me, I have a vintage Coty chypre that I really think everyone should smell. It is one of the greatest things I've ever smelled in my life. That and Emerald are two of the best. But so I guess it's no coincidence that I've been working on this for about 2 years, but I got the Coty chypre and helped me really push me to the finish line. Although that's again totally unrelated. I am just all over the place tonight. I just got off work for my day job, and I'm maybe a little amped, still a little fired up, did a little, commute was crazy. Anyways, let's keep going. So the leather accord, it had isobutylquinoline, but then you're also gonna get like a little dark aged patchouli, which is, I think, the least patchouli smelling of the patchouli. What you would think of patchouli, like a light patchouli, a light aged, is something I think you will associate with that person that put on way too much patchouli and ruined it for you, even though it is such a great note when it comes to overall accords and as a helper note, and used correctly, I think it's a great weapon. But yeah, I mean, even I as well worked with someone who overused patchouli. I was against it for the longest time until I realized how it worked in accordance with other things. And so I think it works really well. The dark aged patchouli doesn't have those kind of like the more bitter top dirty notes. You're gonna get a lot more of that richness, kind of like, patchouli is technically a mint. So when you get patchouli, you do, especially those ones that are like nice thing, but double distilled or dark aged, it has less of the minty notes, more of that earthiness to it. So I think that adds to the leather, almost gives it a well-worn aspect to it as well. And then finally, you're gonna get like a muscanone, or muscanone, I'm not sure, but I think it's muscanone. Anyways, it's a musk note. It's kind of like it's almost like a deer musk note, which is a sweet, not like, obviously deer musk sounds animalic, but it's not like what you would think, not like something like a castoreum. That's like, it's gonna be a little bit more pleasant, almost sweet, tobacco-y vibe to it, which I think goes really well. And I think that, so it feels like a well-worn leather, not like a big, thick, new leather, but like, something that's been around forever, and you just kind of wear it and it feels like really worn in, and it all smells like skin, your scent mixed with like, just the remnants of that new leather that you kind of still smell a little bit. And then, so then the very bottom there, we're gonna add like an ambergris tincture. I used a white one, which is a one that's been out. So like, so it kind of goes by, try to do this as fast as I can. Whales, some of them, they can't process the beaks of the squids they eat. So they excrete those and they go, and they basically puke them up, And so like, they float, and they're, at that point, they're a little fecal, they're not so good. Actually, some people say they come out the other end. I didn't want to say it, but, either way, I'm sorry. It's the way, but the thing is that if you want to get real ambergris that actually smells good, no animals could be harmed, because the essential step of it is floating in the salty water, getting the sun beating down on to age it for like long time, maybe years at a time, especially this white ambergris that I got. So that means it's been really aged, and like you couldn't, if you sliced open a whale and you tried to pull out a big ball of squid beaks from it, that would just smell like, poop, really. But what it does when it sits in the ocean and it floats, the salt water and that it kind of ages it. The sun helps like do those chemical reactions. They end up moving towards the adding, and then you develop those molecules from the reactions that are kind of what they you get when you get like ambrosinide, which is is a very intense material. If you have it on your own, you have to dilute the crap out of it, and then just to use it because it's so strong. So this has some in it that's a little bit, and it's kind of like the material also that like ambroxan tries to mimic, but ambroxan is a little bit, it's a little bit, I mean, it doesn't smell natural as much, but it is in that same vibe. But the point being, it's kind of, when it's really aged deeply, it's kind of like a tobacco-y almost vibe. It's really, it's soft, it's sweet, it's not what you're thinking. So I think it goes really well with this leather accord, with the tobacco, like that tobacco vibe. It goes with the leather accord, it goes with the oakmoss, it goes with labdanum, and then also goes really well with that vetiver. So I think it really fills out the base, and also makes it really long lasting, which I think, really was necessary so I could get that big full progression that I really wanted to get out of this. So like I said, Red Skies, it comes out April 30th, which is the 2nd anniversary of Maher Olfactive. And as I believe I said around this time last year, it's been, hell of a 2 years, and I've really had a blast. Maher Olfactive grew more than ever in 2021. Well, more than ever, more than both the years, but like at a much more quick, much faster pace. And then, and I was and it's been a great year this year. I've been hearing a lot of people have been really supportive, and I appreciate it. And it just really inspires me to do this because like I said, I don't do this to make money. I have a full-time job that, I enjoy. It's, and it keeps me from having to do anything I want to do solely to make money. Don't get me wrong. I really appreciate also not living paycheck to paycheck anymore. That's the great thing about having a business. At least it helps you, not, and I'm super grateful for that. So I don't want to sound like I'm not grateful about my business. But what I want to do more than anything is make things that I'm proud of and I love, and I'm not trying to do just to make money. I want to do it because I love it. I've got a few on deck for this year. This is the first one. I'm really excited. I've been working on it for 2 years now, and I am very excited to finally have it done. It's something I've dreamed of for a while, and I didn't know fully I didn't have a very clear vision at first, but I knew the vibe I wanted, and I think I accomplished it. Like I said, I'm very excited. It comes out on May 30th. Individual samples will eventually come to American Perfumer. However, I will include a sample with any sample set you purchase from Maher Olfactive between now and then, and any full bottle purchase will get this, and all the prototypes that I haven't even talked about yet. I'll be talking more about it here on the email list, but most importantly, I'm excited to bring it to you on April 30th. Thanks for watching this extra long video and all my ramblings, and I will talk to you next time.